Hey everybody, Bill Murphy here with MMORPG.com, and we are back with another episode of MMOFTW, the week that was in MMO news. Now we've got a lot to cover this week, although really I think there's only one big story, so let's get right to it, shall we? First up is Blade & Soul news. That's right, Blade & Soul news. We haven't heard anything out of Blade & Soul and NCSoft and Team Bloodsport, the developer, for probably a couple years now. I think it was 2013 December when they said, don't worry, we're still working on it. Well, they really were still working on it. There's a lot of issues that a game coming over from the East has when they're trying to develop it and bring it to the West, and apparently there were a lot of internal issues and pipeline issues, but the game Blade & Soul was released in mid-2012 in Korea, and then in Japan and China, some other places, and now finally it's coming to America this winter. That's right, with a closed beta to happen this fall, a full release, free to play, 100% free to play, like Ion and some other NCSoft games. It'll be coming out this winter in America. Whether or not it's coming to Steam or if it's just going to be through NCSoft's own services, we have yet to find out, but we got our own hands-on report. I was actually there. I was invited out to California and I played the game for about an hour with some pre-made classes. Didn't really get to do too much exploring. I just got to play around with the combat a bit. So there's a lot left to uncover, like the questing, the crafting, the PvP, and how the faction warfare works, which is entirely optional PvP, plus dungeons, all the typical MMO stuff. It really is looking like a beautiful standard theme park, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you like Terra or if you liked Ion, you're probably going to fall head over heels in love with Blade & Soul. We'll have more coverage of the game for you, obviously, as we get more time with it. And in Destiny news, the House of Wolves, the second expansion or second DLC, was released this week by Bungie and Activision Blizzard. There's a whole bunch of new content. We actually have a review up on the site by Pete Schwab. You can head on over to MMORPG.com or see the links down below to get a review of it. For all intents and purposes, I personally have not been playing Destiny since launch. I stopped. I never actually made it to the cap even. I just couldn't stick with it. It wasn't for me. But there are a lot of people out there who do still play this game on a daily basis for hours at a time. You know, it is a console MMO, or almost MMO, that has a lot of fans despite the critical praise that it received, or a lack thereof. So this DLC apparently is a big one. This House of Wolves adds a new co-op arena activity, new competitive multiplayer events, new loot, new customizations, a level increase up to level 34, new story missions and quests, a new social space called the Reef, a brand new strike called the Shadow Thief, new competitive multiplayer maps. There are 3 new maps. And if you have a PlayStation 4 version or PlayStation 3 version, you also get access to a 4th competitive multiplayer map called Timekeeper, which is a timed exclusive until fall 2015. So there is a lot of meat on the bones of this one, although I think it is a $20 expansion if you buy it by itself, if you don't have the expansion pass, which includes the first 3 expansions to Destiny. So consider that, you know, it's a $20 DLC, but there's quite a few hours of gameplay in here for players. So head on over to the site, take a look at our full review by Pete Schwab, and see if it's time for you to head back into Destiny and give it another look. And in Neverwinter news, though the guys are still making tweaks and fixes to the recent Module 6 snafu, they have announced that their next module, called Strongholds, is coming this summer. Perfect World Entertainment is showing off their guild versus guild warfare to be headed into Neverwinter with the arrival of this Strongholds module expansion. You'll be able to claim, build, and secure your own fortresses that must be defended against rival guilds and against area denizens. That includes, I guess, you know, you actually have to keep your stronghold free from encroaching NPCs and stuff like that. So Rob Overmeyer, the executive producer for Neverwinter, said, "Strongholds gives our Neverwinter players the ability to create their own stories of banding together with their guild to forge the tales of rescuing lands overrun with orcs and defending their turf from invading players." It should be pretty interesting. It seems a little bit like what we already have with some other games like Star Wars Strongholds and things like that, only now it looks like it'll involve some PvP and PvE combat and stuff to do with your guild, which should be interesting. And in H1Z1 news, nearly 25,000 players have been banned this past week as Daybreak Game Company is taking a hard stance against hackers and cheaters in H1Z1. According to a flurry of tweets by CEO John Smedley, who is always prolifically tweeting, nearly 25,000 of those players that are banned recently, they're almost up to the point where they're banning up to 30,000. This was as of May 20th. They're going to unban certain players that make apology videos and make them public. If they're basically asking for players to come out and say things like, "Hey, I'm an idiot, I'm a jerk, I cheated, I shouldn't have," and then they might consider unbanning you, only to know that you've got your account, they know who you are, and if you do it again, you'll be banned just as swiftly. So it's an interesting approach to gaming and banning that H1Z1 and Daybreak are taking. But it's always cool to see a company sort of making a public mockery of people that are cheating and ruining the experience for other players. I personally applaud them, despite what other folks say about the whole unbanning thing. I think it's unique. Give people a second chance. A lot of people think, "Oh, I won't get caught, I'll cheat," and then they get cheat and they get caught and they get banned, and it might be nice to give them one more shot, and at least they have the ability to ban you again just as easily should you make a fool of yourself one more time. And last but not least, in some Guild Wars 2 news, some exciting Guild Wars 2 news for those players who have been following the game closely through its first season of content. You actually, if you might remember, Lion's Arch, which is the capital central city for all the races, it's kind of where everybody used to hang out. It's where they would gather for dungeons, do trading, and just in general enjoy seasonal events and stuff like that. It was completely destroyed in the wake of Scarlet Briar and Mordremoth's attack. It is now being rebuilt. If you log into the game today, if you logged into the game at all, basically during the week, you will have seen that there is scaffolding, new construction, and all this other cool stuff. They're going to keep the main distinctive beauty of Lion's Arch intact, but there will be new gathering places, new architecture, a whole bunch of new stuff to kind of symbolize what Lion's Arch has gone through and where it's going in the future. There'll be new names to a lot of new city landmarks, and ArenaNet is actually asking players to help decide those names with a survey. You can find that in the news link down below in the information of this YouTube video, so you can vote on the new names for the different places that are coming back to Lion's Arch. So there is no ETA right now about when the gathering point Lion's Arch will be fully reconstructed, but it will be soon. I don't think you have to wait too long for Lion's Arch to be fully functional again and get off that darn airship. So head on over to the Guild Wars 2 official site, read the blog about the reconstruction of Lion's Arch, and get in there and vote for your favorite names of the new Lion's Arch. That'll do it for this week on MMOFTW, folks. Don't forget to follow us on MMORPG.com, that's without the dot, on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Blaze.tv, pretty much anything that's social we are on. It's MMORPG.com without the dot. As always, I'm your host, Bill Murphy. This has been MMOFTW, and remember, of course, don't let a bad pug get you down.